I said, son, we're not millionaires. We live a nice life, but that poor kid right there, he needs food. He needs shelter. He needs to be, given information and sent to school so he can have a good career. I said,
hello, everybody. Today we have Mark Garcia.
Yes.
Is the director of the Golden State Investigative Agency. And Mark has a 30 years experience with law enforcement. He has worked in the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, FBI, and among other agencies doing undercover work. So today we invited Mark over to talk about his career, his life, his many exciting experience in the past 30 years. And also we want to ask Mark about some advices that he could give to our community. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
So tell us a little bit about your career. How did you start? How did you become a cop?
So, I mean, I knew early on, I went to school here in San Jose, elementary school, junior high school, and ended up at Santa Teresa High School over at the Santa Teresa area. But I had always known I wanted to get into law enforcement. So, my mom kept me on the straight side. Like, I played football and come home after games, and I'd have to be home at a certain time. And, she'd meet me at the door to ask me how my night was. And little did I know, she was looking at my eyes. She was looking at the way I spoke. She was trying to see if there's something there that would give her any indication that I may be drinking alcohol or doing something that I shouldn't be doing, right? So I didn't figure this out till way later in life. Right. And I realized, man, if it wasn't for my mom, I could have been on the wrong side. And the reason I say that is because I had a very successful undercover career. And when you work undercover, I was told in undercover school in Quantico, Virginia, that you're going to be dancing with the devil. When you go into a case, you're going to meet the devil. And when you hang out with him too long, you could become the devil. So what I realized is that it was too easy for me. I got along with those guys well. I did some big cases. We put a lot of people in jail. We seized a lot of drugs, narcotics, stolen property, counterfeit, with the DEA and the FBI. And I'm like, wow, I could have been there if it wasn't for mom.
Do you have to look the part?
Yeah, I showed you some pictures earlier. Maybe I'll share those with you. You can show your group separate from this interview. But yeah, you got to change your look. You got to change your, they always said to me, like, I thought, I got to get earrings. I got earrings on both ears, and I got to get long hair, and I got to do all these things so I could work undercover. And what I realize now, I'm 65, and I started when I was 29, that it's not the look, it's the attitude. It's being and doing as they do, right? As acting as they act, and the hair means nothing. The earrings mean nothing. They used to call the earrings narc marks. Narc mark. Really? It's a narc mark. Oh yeah, you got two earrings. Yeah, they're going to know who you are. You're the only one wearing two earrings. So it was a lifelong career aspiration. Started in 1981. Wow. Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. Worked in the jail for 4 years. Went to patrol. I worked patrol on the east side of San Jose, over in San Carlos and Bascom area, South County, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, all the way up to Costa de Fruta. In 1989, I got my first undercover job with the state of California, Department of Justice, Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, and I worked undercover there for 4 years. I came back to the Sheriff's Department. I went to patrol. In 1996, I was involved in a shooting. Went to pull a car over I thought was a drunk driver, and it ended up being a gentleman who had an AK-47 machine gun that he took out and shot my car 13 times. Wow. I returned fire. I was lucky not to get hit, and I didn't hit him either. But it was 4 in the morning. At 2 in the afternoon, we caught the guy. My team, Sunnyvale SWAT team, Santa Clara Sheriff's Department, San Jose PD, caught the individual in a hot tub, breathing the air between the cover and the water. And we took him into custody and went to court, to trial, and he went to prison. And so that was 89, and right after that I went to DEA. I worked undercover with them, did some big, more larger cases when you get to the feds. And then while I was there, they approached me, the FBI approached my sheriff and asked if I could work what they call a Group 1 case, meaning they call it the Donnie Brasco. Johnny Depp played an individual named Joe Pistone. It was an FBI movie about him infiltrating the mafia in New York. And that undercover school in Quantico, Virginia is amazing. They have a town that has a bank, that has a liquor store, that has a drugstore, and they have bank robberies that you have to work through, or drug deals you do in a bar that they serve real drinks at. I was kind of surprised when I said, "Give me a shot of tequila," and I'm doing a scenario, and I'm like, "What? This is a real tequila?"
It's not sugar water.
So, great training there, and then I ended up working a case for 4 years with the FBI. We seized $499 million in cash, 2 Walmart warehouses worth of counterfeit and stolen Microsoft software, 50 stolen S500 Mercedes-Benz in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and a ton of other property was all taken in. 32 individuals were booked into custody, and some of them are still in prison today.
Wait, you caught people who smuggle Microsoft software?
They sent me to number one Microsoft Way, to Microsoft, their headquarters, to teach me how to do replication, so that when I spoke to the criminals that were doing this, I could tell them how to do a replication. I could tell them how, like if you have a company and you say, I want 10,000 pieces, and I bring them to you, and then you tell me, I only wanted 5. I go, well, I got 5 too many. They don't just send those back to Microsoft, they destroy them. So you have to have a destruction certificate. So I have a brother-in-law who does destruction. So your brother-in-law gives me the destruction certificate, and those 5,000 other pieces, they're sold in the black market.
Really?
And that's the kind of case that I infiltrated. Those are the kind of little things I had to learn. I'm kind of saying it quickly. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's just an idea on how I got into that part of that work. My whole life was doing drugs. Not doing drugs, but doing drug cases. And then they wanted me to do this high-tech case, and I thought, that's kind of a pocket protector case. I don't really want to do that.
That's right. Like, what's the difference between the drug dealer, drug lords, and these software? Today they're like hackers, right?
Well, the common denominator was the trafficking routes for cocaine coming through South America, Mexico, into the United States are the same trafficking routes for the stolen and counterfeit property. So because they said, you're a Spanish speaker, you're already doing cases, in heroin cases as a Spanish speaker, we want you to do this case with the FBI for high tech. Well, to tell you the truth, my Spanish is terrible. My parents speak, my grandparents, me, they said, FBI said, do you speak Spanish? I said, sí. Oh, okay, let's move on to the next question. When I went undercover, if I didn't know what I was talking about, I'd get that 10-year-old say, ¿Qué dice? What did he say? Tell him this, and I get the deal done. So it's not the look. It's your ability to communicate and work through the problems that you're facing when you're working that kind of case.
Like when you're talking to drug dealers, how would you summarize it? Like, are they evil or are they authoritative? Like, how do you describe them?
It depends on the group you're in. When I first started, it was street level. So you're dealing with people that are using and selling at the same time. They're amped up, they're crazy. They're at a phone booth at First in Santa Clara by the VTA transport, and they're saying, you call and say, meet me at this corner, and you go get a dime bag, $20, $25, $30, $40 worth of cocaine or methamphetamine, and you move on. And then you follow that guy to his house, and then you get a search warrant, and then you find the drugs and the money, and you do that. DEA, you get into organizations, you make negotiations, you have meetings, dinners. It's more of a business kind of a deal where you're talking to the guy that with all the money and the larger amounts of drugs, and you negotiate that, and you do what we call buy walk. I buy from you, and then I walk. I book your drugs you sold me into evidence, and we're writing a report. And when we get to the maximum amount of money that we think you're dealing, or the max amount of drugs that you're selling, then we bust it out. We arrest you and everybody in your organization, and then those people, we talk to them, and they become our informants, so we get to the next level.
Right.
Again, I'm explaining this kind of quickly, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts of that, and it's communication.
Like if we're doing a regular business deal, right? I would wine and dine my clients, right?
So-
What do you have to do?
So look at, when I went to the FBI, I spent 6 months. I went from street level dealing to high, influential people. We had boats, we had Lear jets, we had planes, we would take these groups and meet in Las Vegas, Nevada, and negotiate these cases. And because it was interstate transportation, made it a federal offense. And it's about when I was in undercover school, an instructor said, if you're a police officer and you wear your badge right here, they're going to see you coming a mile away. You're going to have to be able to throw all that out the door. You cannot be an authority figure. If somebody says something rude to you, you have to let it go. If you're the guy that somebody says something rude to you, you're going to jail, and they see that you react, somebody in the back's watching everything you say and everything you do. They said, if people like you in your personality the way you are, they're going to like you and your personality when you're working undercover. If people think that you're not a really good officer, you don't speak well to people, you're rude, then you'll never work undercover. You'll never, ever ingratiate yourself into somebody to do that deal.
Wow, it's all about emotional quotient. Like
They use that word in school in FBI, ingratiate.
Wow.
Ingratiating time, from the time I started that case, it took 6 months, just going to different places with them and talking about what they do and giving a little bit about what I do as a business, so we can kind of connect the two and marry that, so we can find out the illegal things they're doing and then do that transaction.
Tell us about a book that you're thinking about, The 5 Bad Days.
So I do presentations at West Valley College. A lot of my buddies that I worked undercover with, they're teachers there. When they give the book definition of what that is, then they have me come in and tell them the stories that go along with those definitions. So one year, this kid said, "You tell me, I've been to your classes 4 different times, and you never tell the same story twice, and they're always just as exciting. Why don't you write a book?" And what I told him is, and I truly believe this, is that there are several things that you do and you feel bad about, even though it's not your fault. You don't want your kids to read about it. I don't want my wife to read. She lived through that. I don't want her to live through that and go through that again. And so I couldn't do it for any amount of money. And he said, "Boy, if you were to write a book, what would you call it?" I said, "There's a class next semester. If you take it, I'll tell you." Next semester came. He's sitting in the front seat. He said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Yes, I do, and I have your answer." And he said, "What is it?" And I said, 5 bad days. 5 bad days. In 30 years, as a police officer, I was involved in a shooting with a machine gun, a car accident where I went to the hospital for a couple of weeks. I got ripped off on an undercover deal, and there's 2 other incidents that were just as scary and borderline. I could be gone.
Close calls.
Yeah, so 5 bad days. Now, that's not counting all the other bad days in patrol where you see a child who's being abused or beaten, or a wife, or somebody getting run over. I mean, there's so many things that on a daily basis, when you work that job for that long, it's going to affect you when you retire. Emotionally, physically, if you don't take care of your health. Police officers, they said back in the day that you're lucky to last 5 years after you retire because of the stress level, because you're out of shape, because the things you didn't take care of while you were doing the job. But 5 bad days, that's the name of the book.
That's 5 too many. That's a lot.
5 too many. Even if it was 2 bad days, my son, he's now graduating with his master's, and I don't want him to get into that work. And I tell him, I said, "Look, you speak very well. You're smart. We need people like you to build the relationships with our communities, because we've destroyed them in some cases, and some were our fault. It's going to take a while to get it back. You'd be perfect for that. But you're my only son. And knowing what I know, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give you the information to get you to another career so you could live a little longer."
Exactly.
It's dangerous.
Exactly.
Dangerous.
As parents, like here we're in Silicon Valley, it's relatively safe, relatively. And I think we have a bit of drug problem around here. high school kids. There has been tragedies around here. What is your take? Like, what is your advice to young people?
So my son's 22. When my son was 8, I took him to a San Francisco 49er game, and we went to a place after the game called Hunters Point. A lot of drugs, a lot of prostitution, a lot of gang violence. In fact, this one area, to get inside this neighborhood, it's an apartment complex, you have to go through a gate that was opened electrically and closed behind you before you could get out. And I drove around, I put him in the back seat of my undercover car so they couldn't see him. And I pointed out, I said, son, we're not millionaires. We live a nice life, but that poor kid right there, he needs food, he needs shelter, he needs to be, given information and sent to school so he can have a good career. I said, this is sad, and this is what unfortunately the bad areas, and you need to be aware of this. So, I always took the opportunity to teach my son about you educate your children and our kids for the good things in life, but you also have to teach them how to protect themselves. You have to teach them the things that on certain sides of a town, if you're going down the freeway, you don't want to get off on that street because you know that there's going to be trouble there. He learned that growing up, and his friends around him. He went to a private school, Valley Christian, and a mom came up to me one time and said, "Did you take your son to Hunters Point?" And I go, "I did." She goes, "Why would you do that?" I go, "You want the truth or do you want the sugar-coated answer?" She goes, "I want the truth." And I said, "I don't want my son growing up to be, I'll just use a nice word, a wimp like your kid." And some of these other kids. I want my son to know where to be safe, how to be safe, and take care of his friends. And then she goes, "Will you take my son? Will you take the other boys?" I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah." So I did. I took 6 guys in the back of my undercover car, and I gave them the same speech. Okay, push forward. This kid coming back from college in North Carolina, and he's driving home, and they go through Tennessee with his mom, and she gets off on a street, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to offend anybody, but she gets off on a street that I've told them not to go down because that name is never put on a good side of town. And he tells his mom, "Mom, why are you getting off here? Mr. Garcia said that there's nothing good that's going to happen on that street." She texts me immediately. She goes, "I can't believe that they remember this stuff. Thank you. Thank you."
I remember when I first came to the Silicon Valley, people started to tell me there are gangs around here, there are the Crips and whatever. I was surprised because all I see are the sunny side, right?
Right.
Where do I get this education? I want to be in your class.
Well, you know what? I think with AI today, like we were talking earlier, like if I want to know about something I don't know about, I go to AI, and guess what? I get the information. Like if I'm traveling somewhere, I didn't go and see what the dangers would be. I always checked out the restaurants. Like, what's a good place where Guy Fieri, the guy on Food Network, where he recommended. And every time I go there, I wouldn't be disappointed. Now, in AI, I'm going to Tennessee. What are some of the areas that could be dangerous for my family? They'll tell you. You can go online and find out, public speakers and people that are talking about crime in our community. They're out there. You can find it. And again, now that you know me, I'll give you my card when I leave. And like people call me all the time. I met people in my early career, and they still call me. We're friends, and they say, I have a friend who, they think this is kind of a sad story, but they think their spouse is cheating. And I go, well, tell me about it. And they tell me this, and this. I go, they're cheating. How do you know? You didn't even investigate it. It's the same story as I heard a week ago. And I did a surveillance, and they were. So I don't want to take your money to teach you or show you what you already know. I said, it's going to cost you enough for your divorce. I said, just go with it. And I said, unless you can give me a better reason. And this one individual said, I know my spouse is going to blame me for being aggressive, type A personality, and that I was the reason the marriage failed. She goes, but I heard that you write a book with photos that reads like a bestseller. I want to hand it to him before he tells my kids that it was my fault. I go, I'll do it for that.
Wow.
And I did. And guess what? They got a divorce. It was amicable. They split everything down the middle, and there was no problems.
Wow.
So you have my card. You can call me now. or you tell somebody else that they need
I'll
them.
put your name and website on our YouTube channel.
Well, there you go. And you know what? I don't know everything, but I know somebody, like there's a guy, and I'm going to say his name, Bob Cook. He is the president of the California Narcotics Officers Association years ago when I was younger. Now he's retired. He's going to be the president again. So if I'm going to Kansas and I say, dude, I got a case over there and I really need some help, he'll call me back in 10 minutes, call this guy.
Wow.
And I'll call that guy, and guess what? That guy helps me. So I may not know everything, but I know where to get.
people.
I know where to get the answer.
You know a guy who knows.
Yes, I know a guy. I know a guy.
A lot of our audience are Asian, right? So this program is called Bridge to Safety.
Okay.
We're trying to make sure to prevent crime against our Asian communities, right? What happened in the pandemic is terrible.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of Asians have small business, like restaurant owners, dentists, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
We are often targeted, break-ins and larceny and stuff like that, right? What can you tell us to better prevent ourselves? Protect ourselves.
You know what? Look, people ask me all the time. Like my shooting was in Cupertino, Homestead and Stelling. That's a real nice side of town. Where do you think bad people that need things, go to get good things? They're going to come to a place like this. And they know people are in businesses. Now I know people work remotely now because of after the pandemic, people are home, but the bad guys know, people that are doing bad things know from 11 to 2 in the morning, there's nobody home. But everybody has a good ring these days. They have good cameras, so that kind of stops it. If somebody sees that, they might pass that house. But if they don't have it, they're going to pick that house. So you have to know that. Don't think just because you live in Palo Alto that you're safe. You have to always be aware. Like, I know all the cars that go down my street. I live in Santa Teresa area. It's a nice area. But if there's a car that doesn't belong there, I get the plate. And I want to see how long it's going to be there. One time, I stopped a car while I was on patrol. I was a lieutenant in a plain car, and I saw a car at the end of the street, and I kept seeing it, and I stopped it, and it was an agent watching something on my street, and he just pulled his badge up, and I left, and I gave him my card, and I said, call this agent who was in my case when I was at the FBI, and she'll explain who I am and why I stopped you. So she did, but guess what? I will never be a victim, but I never say never. I mean, there are some times when you're doing things, and I'll give you an example. I keep using my son, but he's 8 years old. We're in a restaurant, and he knows I always like to sit with my back to the front door. I want to see who's coming in. So I didn't get the seat. He got it because the way they put us, he was to the door. He goes, Dad, I got the door. I go, oh my God, he's listening to me.
Right.
My 8-year-old, you got me, son, thanks. Bump. Then another thing happened in the restaurant, and he brought it to my attention, and I don't want to target any group, so I'm just not going to say who it was, but he goes, that person's part of this group. I go, how do you know? And he gave me he gave me the example of why. And I walked to go to the bathroom, and sure enough, I recognized the person as local. And I just got 8 years old, and he's paying attention.
Yeah.
Now he's 22. He's the one that says, we're taking Uber. He's the one that says, you guys drank too much, nobody's driving, we're going to do this. Or he's watching around. Like when you go to a bar, I can't say it enough, when you go and you're a male or female, and you leave your drink there, and somebody says, here, let me get that for you. And they grab your cup, and they'll be holding some drugs, and they'll open their fingers when they give it to you, and it drops in, and you don't even see it. And then you drink it, and it could be a date rape drug. It could put you out. There's so many things. These cases happen all the time. Man, when you leave a drink, or I don't let nobody touch my glass. If they do, it's done. And I teach that. I tell girls before college, even guys, doesn't matter. And then I'm working undercover one day, and I'm talking to a group of guys, and I go to the bathroom. I came back. I drank the drink, and I overdosed on PCP. My wife had to take care of me and get me medical aid because I wasn't married then. And we broke up because I was working undercover, and everybody I called hung up on me because they thought I was just calling to be with them.
Right.
My wife came and got me, and I practice what you preach, even me. during that instance got hurt.
Wow. So you
So-
can't be too careful.
We need to train, we need to teach, we want to educate our kids so they get great jobs.
Yeah.
I truly believe that we need to teach them about safety. Somebody was asking me, you were asking me about weapons. One of my deputies that worked for me, he passed away and his wife found his gun in a safe. And she said, Mark, I found my husband's gun. What should I do? I go, is it loaded? She goes, I don't know. I go, don't touch it. We went over there, we made it safe, me and my son, we unloaded it, took the magazine out, took the round out of the chamber. And then she says, I think I should go train with you so I know what to do. I said, okay, come over to my house next Thursday. We're gonna have dinner, but I want to show you something. She came over, I had the backyard set up, and she cleaned my guns. I have like 10 of them. She cleaned them all. And my guns are clean. She goes, why am I doing this? It's a lot of work. I says, because you're gonna know how to take that gun apart. You're gonna know how to put it back together, and you're gonna know how to make it safe before you fire one round out of there. If you're a young child and you're learning, you got to go to a hunter safety course at 13 years old, pass that before you can fire a round. Right. But prior to that, you're going to be cleaning my guns for a year. I'm going to have clean guns, and you're going to know about that weapon. Wow. So my son knows that. He knows how to take guns apart. He knows how to shoot. He's a great shot. Right. And so not only that, I mean, you could take your kid to karate, to boxing, get them ready for physically, but if they're not mentally, emotionally, if they don't know what's going on around them, because the way life is, because we don't have things going on just in Israel or Iran, or they're going on in Mexico, you have the cartel, and guess what? All those groups, they're here. This is a melting pot. Some of those people are here too. Yeah. And guess what? One day, you just may be in the wrong part of town at the wrong time of day, and if you're not paying attention, you can get hurt.
That's an excellent point, because spring break is coming up. With the elemental situation in Mexico, what's your take?
Any of my Mexican friends, if I say, it's dangerous over there, don't go, I'm just like, oh, you don't care about, our people, and I do, but I care about my family more.
Right.
I care about my son more. I stopped going to Mexico a long time ago when I started working for the feds.
Right, sure.
I don't think I'm that big guy that if they identify me, they'll kill me, but if they do, I'll be done.
Yeah.
And so guess what? I took my son to Boston to go to college 5 years ago. We drove across. And I saw parts of the United States that I'd never seen before. And I know that there's a lot more places I want to see first before I go back to Mexico. And I probably will never go back. I don't want my kid to go. Okay. But you know what? So they say, my son wants to be a cop because he rode along with my niece who works for Santa Clara PD. Right. And a boy will come and say, our wife will say, a friend of my wife say, my son wants to be a police officer. Can you tell him, what to do, how to do it? I said, first of all, I'm going to tell you, I don't want my son to be one. So I'm going to tell you, I don't want you to be one. I'm not going to tell you, be a cop and go solve the problem, and then say, but I don't want him to do it. Right. This is why I think you should really consider something else. But now I'll teach you about what I know. I don't have to teach you how to be a police officer. These kids, they're smart. Right. They go to school, they speak well, they have good relationships with people. We need them to solve the problems, to build the relationships with our communities so we can get the business done. I don't have to teach them that. I don't have to teach them how to do this. But what I did tell my son is, I'll teach you how to live. Wow. He goes, what? I go, I'll teach you how to live. I'm not going to teach you how to be a cop. You can be a cop.
That's right.
I'm going to teach you how to stay alive. Yeah. Because I almost got killed on those 5 bad days.
Wow, that's moving words. Yeah. And thank you for being so truthful.
Yeah, no.
I was expecting, beautiful.
No, I mean
beautiful words. About.
Hey, and don't get me wrong. My niece is there. Her husband's there. I have a nephew in Massachusetts in law enforcement. I have friends, kids of my good buddies, and I love them. And I want them to live. I don't want nothing bad to happen to them. And I respect them. But my son, I only have one.
What can we do to seek help? For example, we found something suspicious. Do we call 911, get the police involved, talk to our neighbors? Like, what is the best strategy?
So when you're on a plane and they say, in case of emergency, the air mask will fall down. put it on yourself, get it situated before you help your child. Before you can help anybody else, you have to give yourself oxygen. So you have to train yourself. You have to know what to do. You have to be able to maybe not know the answer, but you can call Mark Garcia. Mark Garcia might not know the answer, but he's going to call Bob Cook. Bob Cook might not know the answer, but he may be able to call the governor. You know, he's going to be related to those people that are going to give us the answers, and we're going to get them for you. Right. So, and with AI, oh my God, I mean, I love that. I go on there and just play with it just to see what I can find out. Right. Guess what? If you AI Mark Garcia, I tried to Google Mark Garcia about 5 years ago in my shooting in 1996, and nothing. I AI'd Mark Garcia shooting in Cupertino 1996. I get the whole story on AI, not on Google.
I have a new idea. You can tell ChatGPT that imagine you are Mark Garcia.
Right. So we now have an even greater source for good answers. And there are people like me out there. There are friends of friends who their friends were in law enforcement. I'm not, you know, it's not specific just to me. There's a great amount of knowledge out there all over San Jose. I got great partners that I work with, good people from San Jose PD. You know, ask your friends, get to those people, and they'll get you the answers.
Are you aware of any classes out there that kind of give you a just foundational knowledge?
You know what? There are a lot of classes all the time, but you're going to find out on AI. I don't know right now. There could be something in Palo Alto going on that I'm a PI. I do PI work. I do missing children. I do it for pro bono if the people can't afford it. I do private investigation work. I do bounty hunting. And I even follow high-end cost articles from point A to point B to get them to an airport so they don't get robbed. So I got a big gamut of things that I do for a living to pay for my son's school, and because I want him to have a great experience with his education. Me, I went to junior high. I paid my way. I didn't get to have live in the campus and all that. I want my son to do that.
Folks, there you go. Here in the Silicon Valley, we have AI-enabled bounty hunters.
Yes, and he's going to take my name and number, and like I said, if you have a question, I may not have the answer, but I can find it.
Well, thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. Nice talking with you.